Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. This is our another important chapter, foundations of group behavior for the course of organizational behavior. Uh, these are some of the chapter outlines. The chapter objectives are the chapter main objectives. Define groups and differentiate between different types of groups. Identify the 5 stages of the group development. Show how role requirements change in different situations, demonstrate how norms and status exert influence on an individual's behavior, show how group size affects group performance, contrast the benefits and disadvantages of cohesive groups, contrast the strength and weaknesses of a group decision making, then compare the effectiveness of interacting, brainstorming, nominal and electronic meeting groups, evaluate evidence for cultural differences in group status and social loofing, and the effects of diversity in the groups. So these are some of the very uh, important topics, or some of the very important issues that we would discuss in this chapter. So by one, we can discuss all of the things. Before going further, before going to the definition of the groups, I would like to explain that why we are making the groups, why the, or we can say that what are the different benefits of the groups. So groups is basically, you can see it here, group is basically two or more individual interacting and interdependent who have come together to achieve a particular objective. This means that group is a combination of two or more individuals. Or we can say that they individuals are motivated to come closer, uh, to achieve common and shared goal. They achieve goals through integrated efforts. You can also to say that they perceive the group as unified unit, and then we can say that they can contribute to the different inputs as well as, and they agree and disagree with the interactions whenever they are making a group, when a particular group is already formed. So there is agreement and disagreement in the group as well. Then what are the different major reasons that make the group is more effective is that the group members are worked in a relaxed and informal atmosphere. This makes the group more effective. Then the another thing is that the purpose is very much, group is more effective when the purpose is very much cleared, the purpose is very much formulated, the purpose is understood and accepted by members. This is very important when you are forming a group, or when a group is work in a particular environmental settings. Then this also thing is, then another important thing when you working for the effective groups. So this the all of the members can, all of the members should listen and participate in task related discussion. This is also very important. You must listen one and other members of the group, what they are saying about each other, what they say about the particular purpose of the purpose and objectives for making that the group. So these are some of the very important things. Then the another thing very important related with the groups is that individuals, you can say that individuals express ideas when you making a group. So individuals can express their ideas without hesitation and preconceived notions. By preconceived notions is that people have different experiences, people have different background, people have different education, so they can share their experiences, so they can share their work, so they can share their ideas as well. So these are some of the basics important characteristics which make an organizational group very effective. Then there are two types: formal groups and informal groups. Formal groups is defined by the organization structure with designated work assignments establishing tasks. So this is a formal group which was assigned or which was established by organization itself for any specific task, for any specific assignments, to establish that established to work on that specific task or to achieve that specific objective. Then informal group is alliances that are neither formally structured nor organizationally determined appear naturally in response to the need for social contact, deeply affect behavior and performance of one another. This is also another thing that is basically people design group based on their own interest. People work in the group uh, based on their own interest, and this is not a formally structured group. So people uh, formed this kind of a groups by their own interest, so they ultimately affects the behaviors of the individuals in the organizations. So this is a formal group is basically a command group, and informal group, you seeing that informal group is basically an interest group. So these are the two major difference in this thing. A group composed of the individuals who report directly to a given manager. Obviously, it's a structured group. So the group members directly report to the managers in this kind of the groups. Those working together, task group is basically those working together to complete a job or task in an organization, but not limited by hierarchical boundaries. Obviously, that's the kind of a group that organization is designed for 2 months or for 3 months or for 6 months for a specific task to complete a job. So in this group there is no limitation, there is no kind of the boundaries that you can say that a manager can also be a part of that group, and under the managers the peoples can work together for the completion of that task. So hierarchies not matters in this kind of the groups, you can say that. Then informal group is an interest group, the members who together to attain a specific objective with which each is concerned. Friendship groups, those brought together because they share one or more common characteristics. So this makes the informal groups. They have their own interests, they have their own background, they have their own you can say that common characteristics. So these are the aspects that can make the informal groups. So further move on, why people join groups. There are so many reasons why people join groups: security, status, self-esteem, affiliation, power, goal achievement. These are all the things that the cause that would be the reasons that people join groups in the organization. Security is one of the factor. When people joining a new organization, so they are concerned about their that they how much they are secure in the organization. So they find out such type of the peoples are they work with some in a particular groups where they can feel more secure, where they feel more power, or they where they feel that they are more feel good about that group. So this is kind things happened when you are joining a new organization. So these are the kind of things that can relate it, that can be the part of the aspects when you joining the organizations or when you joining a group. So status and self-esteem symbols is also one of the things that rich peoples is also has a circle of the others. Rich peoples or the business peoples has a circle of the others business people, so they can relate with each other, that they can interact with each other, playing golf with each other, playing cricket with each other. These are all the things, so they can relate with him with themselves or with each other another. So this is how the affiliation is also one of the part, that how much for joining a groups for the sake of the affiliation is bad, for the purposes that you are joining any particular political party. For the purpose is joining a political party, that you has the affiliation with that political party, and then you can take benefit from that particular political party in a near future. That might be the one of the reason that you join that particular group, that group is more powerful, that group is more influential, that group is more has the kind of reputation, that group has more kind of a PR, strong public relations in the environment. So that's the reason that people join that particular group. In same in the organization as well, as that most of the people say that you have a good friendship, that you have a good norms with top managers. So this affiliation with the top managers make you more easy for the organizational success, and these are the kind of thing. But these are some of the assumptions, but might true in most of the cases, might true in most of the organization as well. So goal achievement is also one of the reasons that your affiliation with powerful people, so you can gain more benefits, you can take more benefits from the people. So this is how can you say that these are the one of the reasons that people join groups. So these are the basic reasons for joining a groups. Then before going to discuss this 5 stages of group development, I would like to explain that some of the, you can say that some of the development of the groups are factors that you can say that in this, that the security status self-esteem. I would like to explain furthermore. As a group membership provides self-esteem, obviously, with those people who, by to the individuals, you feel good that you are a part of that group. Then organizations contain various functional groups which collectively form the building blocks. So that's why people join the organization. That's why the people join the groups. Group relations definitely create, build, and maintain a power. That's why people join a groups. This is also another thing. Group decisions are better than the individual decisions. This is also another one of the reason that people join the groups. So these are the things. People possess enhanced as member of a group rather than as individuals. So these are all the things which makes the importance of the group, that which makes the importance of the then in a society like Pakistan, in a society like those countries where collectivism is more important, or where we are more focusing on collectivism, so they give better results in the collective societies as well. As so in countries like Pakistan, where collectivism is more important, or where collectivism prevailed in the society. So these are one of the another aspects for joining the groups, or these are one of the benefits of the groups as well. As so these are the things. Then we further move on, to the stages, 5 stages of a group development. So the 5 stages of the group development is the first author who explained this five stages of the group development is Tuckmans. Tuckmans is basically explained these 5 stages of the group development. Number one is forming. Members feel much uncertainty. The purpose is not clear in this stage. There is lack of guidance and direction in the forming. There is uncertainty and confusion. People's others to find out acceptable behaviors. Intra-group conflicts high in a forming stage of the groups, as individuals feel that their interests and preferences are shadowed. Might be the one of the reasons that people think about it. So this is one of the reasons in the forming. Then moving storming, and mm, then moving further is the storming law. Second stage is the lots of conflict between members of the group. In storming, conflict and confrontation due to confusion over a hierarchy, relationships, purpose, and direction. Who would lead these things? Who would lead the group? Who would be the part of the group? So these are the one of the basics conflicts or confrontations in this storming stage. People resist imposition of others' interest. Members accept group but conflict over leadership and direction. This is also the another things related with the storming stage. Then moving to the norming. So in the norming stage, members have developed close relationships and cohesiveness. Means that there is a very important, further move on to the norming stage. So here people has a close relationships with each other. They develop more cohesiveness. By cohesiveness, we mean that they has a strong or develop a close interaction. You can say that they are now formulate uh, common goals and expectations of the group. So they ultimately now realize it that they work together, the being the part of the organization, and now they being part of that things, and they have very much clear about their hierarchy. They are very much clear about in this stage. They are very much clear about the purpose. In this stage, they are very much clear about the relationships as well. As Then the next thing is, for performing stage, the group is finally fully functional. This means that relationships now developed. This means that relationships now exist in the group. This means that energy is now exerted towards functioning and performing the task to attain a group goals. And another thing is, another important thing in the performing stage is that they share ideas. This is very much important. So when the members finally fully functional in the group, so they actually shared ideas with each other. They shared ideas, they shared skills, they shared competencies to excel in the organizational activities. So these are things, and they act, and the more important thing in the performing stage is that individuals forget about their preferences and difference. They only focused on that objective, or for the purpose for which group is formed, or the formation of the groups and the development of the groups. So the members is mostly focused on that thing. Then the last thing is adjourning stage. In temporary groups characterized by concern with wrapping up activities rather than the performance, temporary groups like task for teams, uh, for any specific purpose. So these are all the things that we can say that at the end of the at the completion of the task, ultimately groups is uh, closed. That specific, after the completion of task, we can end up with this group. So these are all the this is what we can say, that the adjourning of the stage of the groups. Then further move on to these are some of the critiques of the five stage assumptions, that group becomes more effective as it progresses through the first four stages. Not always true. Group behavior is more complex. You cannot predict it. It's true. You cannot predict the group behaviors. You cannot say anything about a group behaviors. There is a lot of conflicts, maybe conducive to high performance. This might be the case that moving back to, so you can say that we talk about that here. There is lots of conflicts. There is in the norming stage is the conflicts is much more resolved in the norming stage, and then people are more performing. There is a chance, there is a possibility when you are in the performing stage, so the conflicts is also arised here in this stage as well as. But as far as the Tuckman's statements, they're talking about that the conflicts are more arised, or conflicts are more in these in these three stages. But but in not in the favor that but mostly conflicts are in these two stages, and a little bit here in that, but they can ultimately resolve it with close relationships and cohesiveness. And here there is no conflicts as far as the Tuckman's statements is concerned. But after a later period of time, people write about on a group stages, so they can say that, okay, when people has a high levels, where when they are performing so much in the organization, and when they're realizing it, that their performance is not showing to the top managements, and only a group leaders is the performance of the group leader is appraising. So this also the one of the cause, this also one of the reasons that high levels of conflicts may be arise. So the process is not always linear. Several stages may occur simultaneously. So groups may regress, ignores the organizational context. These are all the things which is one of the reasons that groups cannot work. But these are some of the critiques. If I explain my opinion, so group is also always very good for the organization, for the progresses of the organization. So these are some of the critiques. You can furthermore relate to the books, so you can find out more explanation on this. Then we further move on to the other important thing, the group performance, roles, norms, status, size, cohesiveness. When we are forming the groups, you are ultimately explaining the roles of the individuals in the organizations. So you ultimately explain the styles, you ultimately explain the formation, you ultimately explain the so many things when you are designing, when you are relating groups. So the roles is basically, when further explaining it, so role is, number one property is role. Role is basically a set of expected behaviors, patterns attributed to someone occupying a given position in a social unit. So a person is assigned any specific, or you can say that a set of expected behavior attributed to someone in the organization, which explain the different kind of behaviors, expectations from a different kind of behaviors. Persons should have the ability to shift roles when the situation demands, and this requires changing attitude. So these are all the things. Role identity is yeah, clears to the people's. Role identity is very much certain attitude and behaviors consistent with the role. Role perception is an individual's view of how he or she is supposed to act in a given situation received by the external stimuli. You can say that the kind of the expectations from the role, it leads to the ambiguity, or which leads to the ambiguity. So when you clear up the role identification, when you clear up the role perceptions, so people can, the ambiguity is overcome with these things in the organization. So role identification or giving a role in a group is very much important. Then when you assigned a role to a particular, then you have some kind of the expectations, how others believe a person should act in a given situation, psychological contract, an unwritten agreement that sets out mutual expectations of management and employees. So these are things. Then the role conflict is a situation in which an individual is confronted by divergent role expectations. So these are all the other things that you can say that is come or cover up with the roles. You can say that with the belief of the others regarding the role performance by the role incumbent is basically the main reasons for defining a role, and these are the role expectations as well as. So a psychological contract, by psychological contract, is basically an unwritten agreement that set out mutual expectations of management and employees. When you give a role to the people, to the individuals in the organization, so there is some kind of a psychological contract as well as in a people. So what, how can I achieve it, how can I manage it, how can I manage the resources, how can I manage the other aspects in the organization. So these are all the things. In other terms, we can say that in a human resource is basically a psychological contract. By a psychological contract, we mean that psychological empowerment as well as. So by a psychological empowerment means that individual has the confidence, or individual is confidence enough to achieve it. Then next thing is group norms. Group norms is you can say that group norms is very much is related with the norms, acceptable standards of a behavior within a group. Norms vary from one group to another group. Also very much clear to all of you. We discuss in a classes in a starting classes, we discussed about norms and values in a very detailed form. Some common norms include achieving high performances, improving productivity. These are also some of the common norms which covered the performance norms, parents norms, what to wear, social arrangement norms, friendships, and the like, dislike with the people, with the group. You can say that allocation of resources norms, distribution and assignments of jobs and materials. These are all the things that covered in the. So members modify their values, attitudes, and behaviors in accordance to the norms. So you can change according to the acceptance. Then group norms and Hawthorne studies, a series of studies undertaken by Alton Mayo at Western Electric Companies. Hawthorne works in Chicago between 1924 and 1932. They discuss about the group behaviors, norms, and how these group behaviors work together. So the results of the study is says that worker behavior and sentiments were closely related. Worker behavior and their sentiments, when they work together and when they work in organizations, so their sentiments are close to each other. They ultimately close to each other. Means that a group is formed in such a manner where they can formed in such a manner where they can share their sentiments with each other, where they can share their behavior with each others, and these behaviors, these sentiments ultimately influences norms, were significant in affecting individual behavior. Group standards norms were highly effective in establishing individual worker output. Money was less a factor in determining worker output than were group standards, sentiments, and security. This is also one of the conclusion of that study. When you're talking about group standards, sorry, when you're talking about group standards, sentiments, security, so these are more important than a money. So people are making a group for the purpose of their own sentiments, for the purpose of their own standards, for the purpose of their own security reasons as well. Then sorry then uh, Norms and behaviors, conformity, reference groups, hash studies demonstrated the power of conformance, culture-based and declining in importance. Conformity, as I already told you in my some previous lectures, conformity, gaining acceptance by adjusting one behaviors to align with the norms of the groups. Conformity means that when you are accepting all norms and values of the organization. In other terms, when you're talking about groups, it means that you are accepting the norms and values of that particular group. So when you accept the norms and values of that group, so you being the part of that group. So you are adjusting your self group or your one's behavior with that particular group. So you being the part of that group automatically. So there are so many things that conform. For example, you can say that people who cannot accept the values, people who cannot, you can say that does not work, so they can ultimately join to with those people who are not working for the organization, or sort of things. So this is how you can say that the conformity is relate with the in the groups. Reference group is important groups to individuals belong or hope to belong, and with whose norms individuals are likely to conform. You give the reference to a particular group. You can say that you relate yourself with a particular religion, you relate yourself with a particular political party. This is also a reference group. You can relate you with your a particular society. You can relate yourself with a particular club, mm, for the purpose of that, whatever that the purpose is for the. So this is also demonstrate the power of conformance, culture based and declining in performance. Obviously this is cultural based and has also affected on your performance as well. Then deviant workplace behavior. Deviant workplace behavior, also called antisocial behavior or workplace incivility, volunteer behavior or voluntary behavior that violates significant organizational norms, and in doing so threatens the well-being of the organization. So with this means that these deviant workplace behavior is basically a kind of a people in organization who not accept, you can say that who not accept the basic, uh, you can say that not accept the basic norms and values of the organization, and they significantly violated, or you can say that intentionally violated, and thereafter they threatens the well-being of the organization, they affect the well-being of the organization. So this is also, thing. These are the kind of the people who actually do not they are not interested in work. They ultimately create a lot of problems for the people, they ultimately create a lot of issues for the organization. So these are the things. The basics topology related with the production, working speed, property damage, stealing, political favoritism, and gossips, personal aggressions, sexual harassment, and so many other things they can do in the organization. So this is how they can do it. This is how a deviant workplace behaviors relate. This is how they can affect it. That's why here in you see it here they are talking about this is antisocial behavior. So people doing it, there are so many reasons. There are so many reasons. If you go through with the book, so you can find out there are a lot of reasons. There is one of the reason is that people is the person who's very much motivated, work in organization in a very directed manners, but due to favoritisms, due to you can say that due to not giving him or her a proper rights, so that person move to the deviant workplace behavior. This is also another explanations of the deviant workplace behavior. When people joining the organization, that might not that they are not kind of the people that they have the antisocial behavior, but after joining the organization and experiencing so many different um, environments in people settings, so their bad experiences with the people's their bad you can say that their bad expectations are you can say that what they are expect from the organization and what actually organization in return response. So this responded him or her. So this automatically this actually also the causes of the antisocial behavior. These are also the reasons. This not only that a person is inbuilt antisocial unit, they have the inbuilt antisocial characteristics or traits in the, as I told you in a previous lectures, that whenever you deprived people in the organization, whenever you deprived people in the society, they ultimately creates a lot of other issues in the society as well. As so this is also one of the cause of the deprived, you can say that. But you, for a detail you can also refer to the books, you can also go through with the books as well as you can find out. uh, as already I given you the soft copy of the books, so you can, this is very latest edition, a very good book. You can read it and you can go through with the every other aspects. Then group influence on a deviant behavior. Group norms can influence the presence of deviant behavior. Simply belonging to a group increases the likelihood of deviance. Being in a group allows individuals to hide, create a false sense of confidence that they won't be caught. So in a group influence the deviant behavior. This is also very true. This is also very true. When you're joining a such kind of a group where they are not interested, again go to backslide. Here is that people, such kind of the people who are voluntarily behavior that violates significant organizational norms. So these are those people who are basically damaging, stealing, favoritism, and gossips. So these are all the things that create problems. So the people who can work in this kind of the environment are people who are working with this kind of the people. So this can affect, this can influence the other people as well as. So this is also the another reasons. Then group property is the another is status. Status is also another things the of the group property. By status we mean that you can say that uh, status depends upon the type of priority or positions given by the society to the group members. It differentiates to the group members. Important factor in understanding behavior, significant motivators, status characteristics theory explain it further that derive from one of the three sources: persons, power a person has over others, ability to contribute to group goals, personal characteristics. These are all the things that related. High status members are more freedom, has are they have more freedom to deviate from norms. This also one of the reasons that you can say that this enables them to have discriminatory power in decision making. That's why people join the groups. They have the kind of the status, high esteem people. So this is also one of the reasons that people join these kind of the groups as well. So then next is status effects on norms and conformity. High status members are less restrained by norms and pressures to conform. They cannot be very much easily conformed. They cannot be formed in the kind of the things that they can easily, people can, in a high status people cannot accept others people's norms and values. They have their own norms and values, obviously, so they cannot easily adjusted with that norms and pressures, you can say that. Some levels of deviance is allowed to high status members so long as it doesn't affect group goal achievement. On group interaction, high status members are more assertive. Large status differences limit diversity of ideas and creativity. On equity, if status is perceived to be inequitable, it will result in various forms of corrective behavior. So this is related with the equity. Then size of the group is also matters a lot. Size of the groups is perform activities more efficiently, such as problem solving, investigation, and inquiry. Small groups perform certain activities more efficiently. Smaller groups complete tasks quickly and productively. This is also the reasons of the group size as comparatively to the large groups and the smaller groups, you can say that. Then you can say that the another thing is when you are moving to it. So this is also thing is that the group compositions, group size matters relate with the group compositions are formed with peoples with the unified or diversified. Modern organizations prefer diversified groups. So this is also the one of the objectives of uh, the group size. Here you're seeing that the word is explaining is the social loofing. Social loofing is basically, you can say that is the tendency for individuals to expend less effort when working collectively than when working individually. So when people are working in a group, so they can put less effort in the groups. So this is basically related with the social loofing. Means that social members do not contribute in the groups. Means that a group members or other word in other terms you can say that group members cannot contribute in the group environment and rely on the efforts of others for the achievement of goals. So this is also another reason. When we see the criticism of the group model, group development models which presented by the Tuckmans. So this is one of the reasons that the people is very much has reservations on this group development. This is one of the you can say that criticism relate with the group development as well. Then Ringelmann's rope pull greater levels of productivity, but with diminishing returns as group size increases. As the group size increase, so the you can say that the productivity remains diminishing because there is no more persons are working in a that particular group. So some small group in that particular group can work and the rest of the groups cannot work in that group. Then managerial implications is built in individuals accountability, prevent social loofing by set group goals. You can decrease the social loofing by set group goals, increase intergroup competition, use peer evaluation. This is also one of the reasons. Distribute group rewards based on individual effort. So you can decrease the social loofing and you can take the more benefit of the group. Then cohesiveness, the another property, degree to which group members are attracted to each other. Then you can say that relate with the group cohesiveness is also relate with the, you can say that related with the related with the influencing productivity, related with the encourage agreement with the group goals, increase time members spend together, high cohesiveness with positive inductions leads to high productivity. This is also another explanation. High cohesiveness in the organization with high performance norms leads to higher productivity. Higher cohesiveness with low performance. This is also one of the assumption. norms leads to low productivity. Cohesiveness means that team building, how much your people has a team building and a strong team building with each other. This is how you can say that the group cohesiveness work. Then group strengths, there are the group decision versus individual choice, generate more complete information and knowledge, offer increased diversity of views and greater creativity, increase acceptance of decisions, generally more accurate but not as accurate. So these are the group strengths. Group weaknesses, time consuming activity, conformity pressures in the groups, as we discussed in the previous slides, a situation of ambiguous responsibility, but we discussed in the previous slide that how can you remove the ambiguous responsibilities in the organization. Then the other thing is group thing, group shift. So these are also another things that you can relate it with the organization. So in the next part of this lecture, I will explain these other aspects. There's this group shift and group thing. So this complete this part of my lecture. So I will share the more further in the next part of this chapter as well as to complete this chapter. Let me clear you very important thing that this chapter is very important as far as the examination point of view. So please, if you have any question, if you have any ambiguity in these slides, in these lectures, so you can ask with my LMS, and so we can discuss it in a details, and as well as you can discuss it with me my WhatsApp group. Thank you very much.